What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a look at Galaxy's Most Wanted. The lovely folks over at Fantasy Flight Games have given us a pretty big update about this upcoming set, and oh my goodness, it looks exciting. And look, I know that I am a fairly excitable chap normally. I get that, I understand that entirely. I don't care. I am beyond excited about this. We need to have a chat. Now, with it being the Guardians of the Galaxy, this is of course the beginning of the Guardians of the Galaxy block. You get Rocket and Groot in there, and we pretty much know that the next few heroes are going to be Guardians of the Galaxy focused. Though do remember there are a couple of sets to come before this. We've still got to see Wasp and Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. But then, you know, kind of as of February, March time, we're in Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, you're going to have the Milano. It is a support. It is a permanent setup card. That is to say, it comes in at the beginning of the game and stays there. It is always in control of the first player, or controlled by the first player. And, well, you get to exhaust it and generate an any-type resource, which seems like it's going to be a fairly useful thing to do here. So that's rather nice. Now, we've not been given much information about many of the villains, but we have been shown Drang. Essentially, we've got a little bit of information about two of the villains, and frankly, that'll have to do for now. Drang has got, well, at least in stage 1 scheme, 2 attack, 13 hit points, nothing terrifying there. But after Drang schemes, you resolve the Badoon ship's charge up ability. Now, Badoon ship is an environment, and it's got the charge up ability. You place a barrage counter onto Badoon ship. And then when there are 4 or more barrage counters here, you deal 2 indirect damage to each player, and then remove all the barrage counters. So essentially, every 4th turn-ish, you will be taking a bunch of damage. Of course, it is worth pointing out this only happens after Drang schemes, so if you stay in hero mode and Drang is attacking you, you don't take the damage from Badoon ship. So either you're being attacked, or you're letting the villain scheme, and then taking indirect damage, which frankly sounds a little bit mean. Now, we have seen a minion. This is the Band of Badoon scenario. Of course, we have previously seen there is one Badoon scenario, that is Drang here, and then the Collector comes up twice. We're going to look at one of those, and then you've got Ronan the Accuser, and you've got Nebula, though we don't really have any information about them yet. Hopefully there'll be another update in the future where we do. So back to Badoon Grunt then. Scheme of 2, attack of 2, health of 2, very standard kind of minion. It's got a force response after Badoon Grunt engages you. If there are no other minions engaged with you, deal yourself 1 face-down encounter card. And if it comes out as a boost card when the villain is scheming or attacking, it gets put into play engaged with you. This is terrifying! Scheme of 2, attack of 2, you don't really care. 2 health, it's going to be fairly easily defeated. But giving you an extra encounter card? If there are multiple Badoon Grunts, and you've got to assume there are multiple Badoon Grunts, that is going to get pretty harsh pretty quickly. Remember, this is a campaign, so there are 5 scenarios that can be played individually or one after another as a campaign. This is number 1. That seems mean for campaign number 1, quite frankly. But hey-ho. We do also see a new side scheme here, Blockade, and it does actually bring in a new keyword skill, Hinder 2. When it is revealed, you place 2 threat per person here. So it starts with 2 threat, adds 2 threat per person. This is a new keyword skill we've not seen before. We have seen Insight, which puts threat on the main scheme. Hinder seems to put threat onto the particular side scheme. Though to be fair, we have seen side schemes that, when revealed, put X threat per player here. It seems like this is something we've seen before that they're now just putting under a keyword, which is fine. Makes things a bit easier. And it's a crisis side scheme, so you've got to defeat it before you go after the main scheme. And the first player has an action to exhaust the Milano and remove 3 threat from this scheme. So the Milano here very much coming into play. You can use it to take out Blockade, which I think a lot of the time you're probably going to want to do so. And then we have seen a treachery card, Hull Breach. It is a peril, so there's another keyword there. While you are resolving this card, other players cannot help you. And when revealed, you either exhaust the Milano, or you spend 2 science resources, or you deal 3 damage to the first player. Of course, the first reaction here is, I'll just exhaust the Milano, but bearing in mind we've seen what the Milano can do against blockade. We've seen that exhausting it can generate an any type resource. You don't want to exhaust it for no benefit. It really seems here like having the Milano gives you a huge advantage and a range of different actions that can be done on your turn. Losing out on all of those actions seems kind of mean. And, well, I mean, that's kind of what treachery cards are trying to do, so I suppose we need to just accept it. Now, we have previously seen the Collector as a little bit of a hit. We got a nice clear image here. Scheme of 2, attack of 1. Hit points of 13. This is in stage 1, of course. Nothing too terrifying here. But whenever a card, player or encounter, would be placed into a discard pile from play, you put it face up into collection instead. Now, we have previously had a bit of confirmation here. This is not when you play it from your hand. This is a card that is in play, upgrade, support, etc. and then removed from play. Well, what does that mean? Weirdly, we were not shown the scheme here in this reveal article. But the good news is we have seen it before. It was shown off in a previous live stream. It is the Grand Collection. And, well, if there are at least 5 cards in the collection, or if this stage is completed, the player loses the game. So all of these cards going into the collection is actually genuinely quite terrifying, because when 5 cards per player are in there, the game is done. So you've actually got to be super careful here when you're removing these cards from play, that you're not building up too much in the collection. There might be a side scheme, etc. in play that you want to defeat, but defeating it would put 5 cards in the collection, and then you lose the game, and you can't do that. This looks like a really, really interesting scenario. The only other card we were shown from the Collector is a treachery card, Stay a While. When it's revealed, if you're in alter ego mode, you can either spend 2 physical resources or put the top card of your deck face up into the collection. That you might not have 2 physical resources to spend, but remember that too many cards in the collection loses you the game. This could be terrifying. And in hero mode, the Collector attacks you with 1 extra attack. And if you take any damage from the attack, you put the top card of your deck face up into the collection. I think it's fair to assume that you are going to have a lot of cards with the Collector that put cards into the collection. It is worth reminding that there is a hero action on the Grand Collection that lets you exhaust your hero or spend 2 resources of any type to discard a card from the collection, limited to once per player per round. So this is going to be a really interesting scenario, because there are constantly going to be times where you want to play cards, but if you play those cards, you cannot remove cards from the collection, and you really need to remove cards from the collection. So it's going to really be slowing you down. This one, again, looks like an awful lot of fun. Now, a brand new thing that we didn't really know about, that we've now got a bunch of information about, is the market. Now, essentially, the market comes in. After every scenario, you are given a bunch of units, and you can spend those units to purchase new cards for your deck. Now, we saw an element of this in Rise of the Red Skull. We saw that sometimes after a scenario, you would be rewarded by having cards in your deck, but this is a little bit different. This is not choose one of these 4 cards. This is have a number of units, and use whatever units you've got to buy whichever cards you like. And we've seen 4 of them, and they look fun. By Any Means is a 0 cost event. It's a unit cost 1, so it's a very cheap one. When you draw it, you play it. You don't have to pay any other resources. And you place 2 threat on the main scheme. But you also deal 3 damage to the villain and draw a card. Clearly, placing 2 threat on the main scheme is a bad thing, although you can manage this if you're careful. But dealing 3 damage to the villain and drawing a card for 0 cost, that ain't too bad. Sure Gamble is another 0 cost event, but it's a unit cost 5, so it's much more expensive to get into your deck. But it reduces the resource cost of the next card played this phase by 3, although really it reduces the resource cost by 2, because you've got to play Sure Gamble, which would otherwise be 1 resource you could spend. But still, you play this and then the next card you play costs 3 less. That ain't bad, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't bad. Mounted Laser is a 1 cost upgrade. Now its unit costs 6, so it's very expensive. But you exhaust it to deal 2 damage to an enemy. If you are the player in control of the Milano, you instead deal 3 damage to the enemy. Now this is interesting because in solo mode, and I know a lot of people, judging by the Facebook group and the polls on there, do play in solo mode a lot, you will always be in control of the Milano. So in solo, this actually becomes a better card because rather than every second or third turn being able to use this with the extra damage, you always get the extra damage. And finally here we can see that we've got Reactor Core, a 1 cost upgrade. Unit cost 4, so not cheap but not as expensive as a lot of the others. And there is a hero action that lets you exhaust Reactor Core and discard the top 2 cards of your deck, or only 1 card if you control the Milano. Again, in solo you'll always control the Milano, so it's only ever going to be 1. And you reduce the resource cost of the next event you play this turn by 1. So the first time you play this down, you're paying 1 resource, it's kind of evening up. But over the course of the game, this becomes good. You are discarding cards from the top of your deck, and we know that Scarlet Witch discards a lot of cards, so it's going to be worse for her. And when you run out of cards in your deck, you shuffle up and deal an encounter card. So it is getting you closer to taking more encounter cards, but by the same token, it's making all your cards a little bit cheaper, which potentially means you're drawing fewer cards, which actually makes it less likely you're going to be taking more encounter cards. Either way, these are good cards. Also worth pointing out, all of these do have an any type resource, which is going to make it easier to pay some of the awkward costs you need, which we've already seen in these scenarios. You're going to basically have to, which again is a little bit mean. Now, one really interesting thing which is coming in this box is Badoon Headhunter. Now, Badoon Headhunter is a minion which follows you through the campaign, which is kind of awesome. So we've got a 5-card encounter set here, Badoon Headhunter, and I'm assuming here that Badoon Headhunter essentially is going to be in every scenario. We got 1 scheme, 1 attack, which isn't particularly big, but we've got 7 health here, which means it's not going to be that easy to take down. It's got the villainous keyword, which we've seen before. When the minion activates, you give it a boost card. Generally, villain gets boost cards, minions don't. This changes that. And another new keyword, Victory 2. When defeated, you add this card to the victory display. Now, please stop me if I am missing something here, but I do not ever remember seeing any reference to the victory display before. I don't entirely know what that is. I don't know what the victory display is, so sorry. What we are told in the article is a temporary defeat brings him back stronger in your next battle. So adding it to the victory display does not seem like a good thing. It seems like if you defeat Badoon Headhunter in one scenario, it's going to come back in the next scenario, but better, which is kind of terrifying. Because if that keeps happening and you defeat him in the first 4 scenarios, and you've given 4 buffs before it comes out in scenario 5, Badoon Headhunter could be truly terrifying. We don't have all the information about this, but I am very excited to find out. Now, the good news is we were given a little peek at both of the heroes that we're going to be getting here. Now, we've seen little bits before, but we now have a little bit of a better look. Rocket Raccoon comes in hero mode with 2 thwart, 1 attack, 1 defense. Not good stats. And hit points of 9, which is about as low as we see. And a hand size of 5, which is standard, but safe to say, not good stats. But it's got the awesome response, Murdered You. Great reference to the comic there. After you deal excess damage to an enemy, you draw 1 card. So when you deal more damage than you need to, you get to draw a card. So I don't like the stats on Rocket at all, but I do like that skill, drawing extra cards. Now, we weren't shown the alter ego in the article, but the good news is we have previously had that revealed. You've got a hand size of 6, which is standard, recovery of 3, which isn't great, and the same terrible hit points of 9. But you do have a really nice skill, Tinkering. You choose and discard a tech upgrade you control to draw 2 cards, limited to once per round. So both sides of Rocket here draw you cards. That is pretty gosh darned awesome. And Rocket really is built around these tech upgrades. We've seen Rocket Launcher here. Now this is restricted, so you are limited to how many restricted cards you can play in your deck. But it enters play with 2 charge counters and has a hero action whereby you exhaust Rocket Launcher, remove a charge counter from it, choose a player, and then deal 2 damage to the villain and each minion engaged with that player. Again, another card which really works well in solo mode when you just deal 2 to the villain and each minion. When the 2 charge counters get taken off, you can't actually use Rocket Launcher because you've got to remove a charge counter to use it. What do? Well, you tinker and draw 2 cards. We've also been shown Reload, an event here which readies each tech upgrade you control for 1 cost. Bearing in mind something like Rocket Launcher, play it down, use it, reload, use it again, flick into alter ego mode, tinker to draw 2 cards. There are going to be some big combo heavy turns coming with Rocket here, and I am into it. Now, Rocket comes in with an aggression suite out of the box. Do remember you can play whichever aspect you want with whichever hero you want. But we do get a pre-built deck out the box. With Rocket, it's going to be aggression. And we've seen the free cost event Into the Fray, which has a hero action that deals 6 damage to a minion. And for each point of excess damage you deal, remove 1 threat from the main scheme. So let's say you've got a 2 health minion here, deal 2 damage, and then remove 4 threat from the main scheme. One of the things aggression can struggle with is removing threat. This seems to deal with that very nicely. We've also seen the very thematically appropriate hand cannon, a 2 cost upgrade which again is restricted, and well, it comes in with 3 charge counters. Though as a quick side note here, it is kind of interesting that Rocket Launcher reads, enters play with 2 charge counters on it, and Hand Cannon reads, uses, brackets, 3 charge counters. I'm pretty sure that's exactly the same thing. It is interesting to see it phrased in 2 different ways. But we have a hero interrupt. When your hero makes a basic attack, you exhaust Hand Cannon, remove a charge counter from it, and your hero gets +2 attack for that attack. And the attack gains overkill, so if you take down a minion with this, you can still deal damage to the villain. And again, when you're out of charge counters, hey, you've got a tech card. Well, or tech upgrade even. That's going to be something that you can tinker to draw a couple of cards. So that's kind of cool. Rocket looks fun. Groot also looks like a lot of fun. Starting off in alter ego mode, you've got a recovery of 4, which is alright. Hand size of 6 is standard, and hit points of 10 is still not great if I'm honest with you. But it's got an action that places 2 growth counters on Groot, limited once per round. And you can have a maximum of 10 growth counters on there. And that's a hook of Groot. You're playing with these growth counters. So, if we look at the hero mode of Groot, 1 thwart, not good. 2 attack, okay. 3 defense, yes. That is awesome defense. Hand size of 5 is standard, same hit points of 10. But you've got the forced interrupt, and it is a forced interrupt. You've got to do this. Flora Colossus. When Groot would take any amount of damage, you remove that many growth counters from him, and for each growth counter removed this way, prevent 1 of that damage. So if you would take 4 damage, but there are 4 growth counters on there, you remove the 4 growth counters and take no damage. So fine, the hit points of 10 is quite low, but defense of 3 and constantly defending is awesome. Of course, that's not the only thing you can do with growth counters. We've got Root Stomp here. It's a hero action for 2 cost. You deal 5 damage to an enemy. If the attack defeats that enemy, you do place 1 growth counter on Groot, up to a maximum of 10. And another card that wasn't shown off in the reveal article, but we have seen before, I Am Groot, a 2-cost event that deals damage to an enemy equal to the number of growth counters on Groot. So we can see straight away what Groot's doing. It is a hero where you are building up growth counters and then playing cards to take advantage of those growth counters. We've seen that Rocket comes in as an aggression character, Groot comes in as a protection character, and we have seen a lovely protection card here, Dauntless. It is a 1-cost upgrade, although it is limited to 1 per player. When your hero's remaining hit points are equal to or greater than your starting hit points, you gain Retaliate 1. But bearing in mind you've got a defensive 3 on Groot, and you are preventing damage with Flora Colossus, so it seems like the easiest character we've seen so far to keep your hit points at full, and then you're going to have Retaliate 1, so you might not even really need to deal that much damage. With cards like I Am Groot and having Retaliate, this seems like a character that is perfect for protection. It's almost like the card designers thought this through. So there's a lot to think about here. 2 villains that we know a bit about, 2 heroes. We've got the Milano, we've got the Market. Again, this seems like a nice campaign. This seems like something where going through all of these scenarios one by one is really going to be a great way to play the game. I am hyped. It's not out for a few months yet. And if I look forward to it too much and I'm looking past Christmas and Christmas is awesome, there's a song reference there that I'm not sure any of you are going to get, but if you do, let me know in the comment section. I will be delighted. But frankly, when Christmas is over, we can start looking forward to this a lot. Let me know how much you're looking forward to it in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk Marvel Champions and a whole bunch of other games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.